Hey guys, my guest with me today is Joel Hassenritter with wayfindersforlife.com. He's one of the ULA guys using their program and their curriculum. He's a family man, married to the woman of his dreams. He's a father, he's a life coach, and he's also my friend. Joel, happy to have you back, man.
Man, it's great to be back, brother. So
Awesome.
good.
How are your holidays?
Like everybody else is busy, but good. It was a good time to reconnect with the family. We got to spend some good collaborative time at people's homes and things like that. Just having a good time, eating lots of good food. And those are two big things on my list. So
right. Yeah, the fitness goals kind of like, it's got to start January 1st. I got 5 days to really get down on this pecan pie,
That's right.
I went to my in-laws house, and I think that's going to have to come to an end. And I know my mother-in-law listens to these podcasts, and I don't want her to get her heart broke, but it's just 2 days of icy roads from North Dakota all the way to Colorado. And then there's really not much to do in their town. It's great to see family and stuff. And then the way coming back this time, the roads were really hairy. There's a few places I kind of started losing control, and I turned off I-70 in Colorado to start going into Wyoming, and this guy spun off the road. So we jumped out. I jumped out to try, because he was in a little small car, and I'm thinking, all right, if that guy in the Jeep stops and I stop, we can push this guy and get him back on the road. So we jump out and we push this kid, he probably 22, and we push him back onto the road, and he started sliding to the middle of the road, and someone coming from the other way panicked and locked it up. And everybody was slow. Everybody was doing 30, 35 miles an hour. But the guy coming the other way actually spun out and went in the ditch. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing more I can do here. But just living in a motel, all that stuff on the travel and all that. I think we're going to do what you did next year. And just
stay at home.
Yeah, just stay home and have people from the school that my wife teaches at, friends that she's made, have them maybe come over and different things like that. And just really keep it low key.
It's awesome. We do two things, or did two things this past Christmas. The first thing that we do is a traditional family thing is we always have our Christmas on Christmas Eve. Because as the kids were getting older, we have two older kids, and as they were getting older, it became really difficult to just schedule around everybody's, significant others and everybody's, family they're going to and so forth. And so we have a pajama party Christmas Eve. We all get dressed up in pajamas. We have breakfast for dinner, make some banana pancakes and lots of syrup, and open our gifts. It's a lot of fun. And then on Christmas Day, we're Hawaiian as well. And so we had this feast of authentic Hawaiian food that everybody just brought food. And it was awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, it's good, man. It's winter time up here in North Dakota, and we're dealing with negative 35, negative 40 temperatures, but it was a good time for us to connect with family, connect with my wife again with the 2 weeks off I had, and let the kids see everybody, and just a reminder of back home and whatnot and stuff. But no, it was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so man, let's just jump right into it, man. You were on the podcast a couple months ago. And for real, man, that really was one of the fastest downloaded episodes that I had put out.
Wow, man.
Yeah, brought a lot of value-added content. There was a ton of good stuff in there. I listened to it a couple of times myself, was really encouraged by it, which led into our relationship now, where you're my coach. You know what I mean? It's something I've been wanting to do and go through life coaching myself. And it's been good. The program's been good. It's really opened my eyes to some things, and got me thinking, and got some challenges, got me back in the gym, got my wife really honing in our finances and different things like that. So that's been good. And I mean that.
Awesome.
But there's so much more, not only to the ULA program, but but just more to what you want to share as far as helping people kind of get through the transitions in life and set goals and be motivated to win, motivated to succeed. So you wanted to talk on goal setting today.
Yeah, I know we had mentioned picking up from the last episode and doing the accelerators, which I'd love to talk on sometime, but this is such a key time of the year where people they're asking themselves, why didn't I get that thing done last year? What stopped me? And this year I'm going to crush it, or not setting any and just being complacent with where they are in life. And it's always good to reflect back. It's always good to get the lessons learned from something that you didn't accomplish or that you wanted to. But I find it's such a key part of life to actually move life forward, to have something tangible that you can look out and be moving towards. And I really wanted to just speak on a structure of how to do that well, because what I find in coaching is that we get this mindset of those who are motivated enough, I'm going to go do this thing that I didn't get done last year. And maybe it's a fitness thing and I want to be more fit. And so they join a gym and they work out 5 days a week, like 3 times a day, and they do it for maybe a week and get burned out.
Right.
And, the reality is that goal setting it shouldn't be an annual thing. It shouldn't be the thing that because the calendar turned another month, that now we're going to look back and go, okay, now what am I going to do? Like this should be a habit of a lifestyle.
Yes.
And, it's a lifestyle of what's your vision for your life? Where am I right now compared to where I want to be and how am I going to get there? And all of that comes into play in how to do that well and to have a structure around that. So I thought it'd be an interesting topic for your listeners just to kind of throw some ideas around about that and see if we can give them some tangible things to do as they are looking towards 2022, or maybe they've already set some goals for 2022, or maybe they've not even thought about it.
Right.
So I know you've got a bunch of questions, but one of the stats that I saw recently was from the University of Scranton. 92% of goals are never achieved.
Yeah.
That's actually an uptick. Last year was 95%, I think. Wow. So yay, we're making good progress, but that literally means 8% of, the people that set their goals and say, I want to do this thing with my life. It's never done. 8% is only done. 92% is never done. And that's discouraging. So I'd love to try to fix that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right, man. I did a little research today and mounted up a couple questions, quite a few questions actually, that I want to ask. And I think if we stay on point with it and everything, we can get through most of them. And but I don't want to jump right into the questions until you're ready. So okay. You let me know when you're ready for questions. Are we good to go with that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're ready to go with that. And if you want some, I'll tell you what, let me give some precursor, because we're going to get into how to do this, right?
Yep.
So let me give a little bit of precursor as to why it doesn't work.
Okay.
And then as we go into making it work, then there's some context around that. So 5 reasons why goals don't work, 5 reasons why they fail. Number 1 is they're not written down. Okay. There's never a time that we go through life that we can be 100% focused on what we want to do and we don't get distracted by other things around us. Like that's just life, right? It just happens. So it has to be written down. And when it is written down, you can review them, you can see them, you can put them in strategic places around your house or your work, right? To say, oh yeah, that's the thing I should be focused on. So number 1, they're not written down. Number 2, they're not written properly. They're just poorly written goals. I want to be fit it's not tangible enough. Like, what does that actually mean? And what it means to me might be different than what it means to you, right? I want to lose weight. I want to, have more money. Like, none of those are going to be tangible enough to set specific measurable actions around how to accomplish that, right? Number 3, they're not reviewed daily.
Okay.
And in ULA, we talk about, we have the system around setting goals in each of the 7 F's of life. And those are fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. And so pretty much, if you think about all those different categories, any of the stressors that we have in our life and also the abundance that we have in our life falls under some subcategory of one of those 7 F's.
Right.
And, everybody divides it up differently. That's how we divide it up in ULA. But in the system of ULA, we set 3 goals in each of the 7 F's. We narrow that down to the top 7 goals out of all those 21. And then we narrow that down to what we call the ULA 1, which is the one thing that if you accomplish in the next 365 days would absolutely change your life and the lives of those around you. And we review those top 7. The system is every day, every night before you go to sleep, you look at those goals and you determine what you're going to do tomorrow to move you towards those goals. So that's the third reason why goals don't work, is they're not reviewed. They're not reviewed on a consistent basis and certainly not daily. Number 4 is you run into a blocker. And that last episode, we did just a whole episode on blockers basically. And, you know, when you think about something tangible that you want to either move your life forward or something you want to achieve or the person you want to become, then fear, self-sabotage, anger, guilt, could be laziness, right? All of these things come back and start to haunt you a little bit. And so that can happen before you even set out to accomplish that thing or be that person. It could be in the middle of it and just think, man, there's no way I can get this done. Like there's no way. And a lot of times it's right before you actually achieve it. It's right before, it's just that little bit of you're at the top of the mountain and just about to crest over the peak, and it's downhill from there, and you stop.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage, right? All laziness, all that stuff comes back, and then it's like, man, it's not worth it. It's not worth the effort. You know, I'm not sure I can pull this off. Maybe I'm not worthy of the success of it. I was at a guys meeting the other day. It was actually an ULA meeting. There's mainly guys there. And we asked the question, how many people set goals here? And one of them said, no, I don't, because I'm afraid of it. And I said, what are you afraid of? He said, I'm afraid of the success of it.
Wow.
Yeah. Some people are afraid they can't pull it off. Others are afraid that when they achieve it, like maybe people will start looking at them a different way. Right? Maybe their family's going to alienate them because they have something their family doesn't. And that's where you get envy, you know, and jealousy and so forth.
Sure.
But we can go down that rabbit hole. But and then the fifth thing of why goals don't work is it's somebody else's goal. Like we've been told that so many times. You know what you should be doing with your life? You should be doing this, this, and this. Or what are you doing with why are you doing that? What are you doing in that job? You know, and sometimes it can be a healthy challenge, right? Sometimes it can be a way to challenge our mindset, challenge our perspective, to get out of a funk, if you will. Sometimes it's tough love, and that's okay. But other times it's a projection of what someone thinks our life should be about. And then you start hearing that enough. Maybe it's when you were a kid,
right?
You know, you're never going to amount to somebody. You're never going to do this with your life, you know. And we start hearing that and we start believing it. And then we think, well, I guess if I'm going to go do something, I might as well go do that. But It's not actually the thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night because you are so excited for the next morning, because you're going to hit the ground running and going 1,000%. It's not that thing.
Yeah.
It's just some other thing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I like that, bro. When you were talking about that guy who was afraid to win, I was actually surprised that you went that direction, because I was expecting you to say afraid to lose, because that's a big thing for a lot of people, is when they start a goal and they don't achieve it, or they go with it for a few months and then they fall off or whatever, so to speak, with fitness as an example, you know, they begin to build this track record of not succeeding, or this track record in their mind of every time I start, I never get it finished, kind of a thing. So why bother? Why try, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And
totally.
I don't think people realize that it would be better to start and stop a fitness routine 10 times within a year than to start it once, go for 6 weeks and quit and think that you're a quitter. Like sometimes you have to start, stop, like over and over again, because you're developing within your own mind the mindset that this is a part of my life. Like, you know, if we're talking about fitness, like fitness is a part of my life. And I think just like you said, people stop just short of the goal or just short of the victory, you know. when you were talking about it being someone else's goal, you mean like other people trying to live their lives vicariously through you?
It
Like
could
I
be
was in
that.
the military, you should be in the military too, son, kind of a thing like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it could be that. Like I have this family business and you need to take it over just because I have this family business. It could be
Right,
that,
right.
or it could be something that's unrelated, that doesn't have that connection. And it could just be something that somebody else thinks you should be doing with your life.
Right. So those are the 5 reasons why they fail. Did I hear you right when you said there's five reasons why they win, why they succeed?
Yeah. Well, those are the five, I would say, most common reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why goals fail, right? But those are the 5 most common reasons that we see in coaching of what really holds people back. When it comes to setting a structure around that, we do have 5 categories of how to write that. I don't know when you want to start talking about that, or if you want to throw some questions at me or whatever, so we can do both.
Okay. Well, we just did the why they failed. Do you want to talk about, or do you want to say
Sure.
that for later? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. So the way to win when it comes to goal setting is to have a system around it. And one of the most common things you'll hear the ULA guys, Dave and Troy, and the coaches saying is ULA is not a secret, it's a system. This mantra of I'm a guru, if you will, and I have the one thing that you've never heard before. And if you just pay me $19.95 and I'll give you 5 macho chains and 3 fish poppers, some Ginsu knives, and all of a sudden you're going to be this magical millionaire, right?
Right.
The reality is those who are successful, it's not because they figured something out that no one knows. It's because they have a system for consistently moving their life forward. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And we don't hide it in ULA because it's just there's common knowledge, but there is a framework around that.
Is this the smart goals you're getting ready to go into?
Yeah, that's right.
This is the smart part. Okay. Yeah, dive right in, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think it was like 1981. George Duran came out with the SMART system. And there's a lot of ways to view goal setting. And it can be habit building, right? It can be lifestyle changes. This is one way to put a structure around it so that you have a system for writing the goal properly and for accomplishing it. So we modified it just a little bit in ULA, the ULA guys did, from what George Duran originally came out with. But the S in SMART is specific. And so many times people just don't have a specific goal that they want to go after. And going back to the I want to be more fit example, it's just not tangible enough. It's just not. And if you can't be specific about what it is you want, it's like that old adage, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to know when you get there. Right. So you have to have a vision of what that is supposed to be or what you want it to be, and be very specific about it. If it's a fitness goal, maybe it's walking a mile 3 times a week. Like that's specific, but I want to be walking more is not,
Right.
So be specific. We talked about why that doesn't work before. So be specific and write it down. Like get a pen, get a paper, write it down, make a poster board, some 3x5 cards and some sticky notes and stick them around. This is the thing that I really want to accomplish. Be specific and write it down. The M is for measurable. And it's interesting because if you can't measure something, you don't know your progress and you don't know when you're successful at it. So the measuring part of it is not just when you achieve it, but it's also the wins along the way to get there.
Right.
And I've heard some people recently say, don't set goals, because every day that you live your life that you don't achieve them, then that's a failure. And from my perspective, that's a flawed viewpoint. And the reason is this: when you build in tangible, daily, measurable steps towards your goal, that's a win every day. Right. You've got the big win, maybe at the end of the year, maybe at the end of 6 months, whatever the case may be. But when you're in the habit of a lifestyle of taking daily action, you can look back at the week, and instead of saying, oh, I didn't hit that goal, you can say, I took 15 steps towards changing my life.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's a win, right?
Yeah.
And you've talked about it before in your podcast. Dopamine comes in, right? The happy hormone comes to play, and all of a sudden it's a perspective of, this is what I've achieved. This is what I've accomplished. Maybe it's not the big win, but it's 15 steps that you didn't do the previous week,
right,
or the previous year, right?
And that matters.
So it matters. Measuring that is not just the big win, but it's also the steps along the way. This is where we switch it up a little bit in ULA. The A is for accountable. And this one's huge, because if you're really trying to move your life forward and you're specific about it, you've got a way to measure that. And you don't have an inner circle, you don't have your tribe, you don't have the friends around you that will hopefully do one of two things. Number one is they will give you their hand when you've fallen down and when you've stumbled. And, take my hand, bro. I've got you. I've got your back. Pick you up and help you move forward, right? That's one thing an accountability group can help you do. The second thing is to kick you in the butt. Mm-hmm. And if you got a fitness goal to walk 3 miles a day, it's a beautiful day outside, and you're binge watching Netflix, have that friend that goes, hey, bro, meet me at the park in 10. Yeah. Let's go for a walk, right? Yeah. And I know you've talked about that so much, with the importance of having your tribe and finding that group, right?
Yeah. Network is
the big. Others. It's huge. Yeah. And it really makes it makes an enormous difference when you study those who are successful and those who are not, or those who are successful and those who are dramatically successful, exponentially successful. You will rarely find someone who has hit the peak of their life in terms of their influence and their impact that doesn't have a group around them cheering them on, picking them up, and kicking them in the butt just a little bit when they're falling off the wayside.
I'm going to jump in here with a question.
Yep.
Let's say, and there may not be an answer for this, but let's say you got somebody that's got goals, they've got ambitions, they're starting their journey to success, and they don't have that tribe. They don't have that accountability partner, so to speak. Would you encourage that person to really try to, what would they do? What would you tell someone that doesn't have that at the ready for themselves?
Yeah. Two things. One is find one, and the other is create one. Because what you're ultimately looking for is, you're looking for a group of like-minded people that are being intentional about moving their life forward in whatever direction it is for them. Doesn't have to be the same definition, right? But it has to be a similar mindset, in that you and I, we're trying to do things with our lives that are different than what we did yesterday. And so if somebody doesn't have one, do a search for groups, community centers, church groups, activity communities, right? And you could even, a lot of times, find something around a common topic. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I study that as a hobby. So one of the people that I go to when it comes to some health things is our jiu-jitsu instructor. He also happens to be a nutrition coach and is one of the most well-researched people when it comes to human health. Right. And it was because of that interaction with him that we found the naturopathic doctor that my wife goes to, that my daughter goes to, and that has made a tremendous difference. But our common language at first was just getting on the mat and learning something, right?
Right. So there might be a period of time where you got to develop a relationship with someone before it gets to that spot where they're willing to be an accountability partner for you, so to speak.
It could be that. It could also be a complete stranger. And what I mean by that is I have a guys inner circle that we meet every other week. And it's a group of 5 guys. And inner circles of tribes for this accountability piece. It doesn't have to be 20 people, right? It can be 2 or 3 people. And we've had these 5 guys that have come together. I didn't know any of them.
Mhm.
I take that back. I knew one of them before we formed this inner circle.
Mhm.
None of them have been in my past. None of them know me as a person. They know, where the skeletons in the closet are hidden. None of
Mhm.
them. It's just a group of guys. We came together through ULA, and we said, you know what? We need some accountability. Anybody want to join in? And we just created it.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. Makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I like that, man. I accidentally ended up doing that for myself a few months back. And when I say that, it took a few months to realize what I had done. And I was talking with my wife about it. I knew what my goals were. Like, I wanted to level up in fitness and nutrition. I wanted to level up with confidence. I wanted to level up with learning how to leverage, tragedy and trauma from my past and let it be fuel for the fire for me to like build an amazing life. But I didn't necessarily have anybody in my immediate circle that was on that same trajectory.
Yeah.
Like, and the busyness of life and all that stuff. I mean, it takes effort and sacrifice to actually, like, you guys have to pull away from your family to like go have
That's
that
right.
meeting with each other, right? So you got to be willing to take the sacrifice there. But what I did was I said, you know what? I'm already doing this podcast. Why don't I reach out to some people to see if there'll be guests to come and talk about these issues that are important to me, right? And that I know that are important to the guys that listen. So that's what started the whole series 2 or series 2 of the Apex Masculinity podcast. And you were able to come on. Candace came on and talked about stuff that she went through, tragic things she went through in her early life. I had this guy John come on and talk about fitness and nutrition goals. And when I got a few episodes into it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've been wanting to do life coaching for a long time. Because I have these guys and gals coming on my show, I'm like getting free life coaching.
I like it.
Right? No, it was good. It was like it was opening up that world to me, and it established the relationship that you and I have now, the relationship that I have with Candace. I haven't spoken with John. He emailed me a couple of days ago to let me know that an episode, because we did 2. I think I was on his show and he was on mine. To let me know that the episode I did with him just went live. But
Nice.
I know that if I have fitness and nutrition questions, I can reach out to him. You know what I mean? And I can get some questions answered and stuff. And I'm almost quietly building my inner circle now of people that are experts in their space. Like the other day, I called Candace on the phone because I'm struggling with some IT issues on developing my brand. And I want to respect her time and everything like that. So she just laid a few things on me, just dropped a few nuggets on me that are going to help me progress and move forward in what I'm trying to build. But whatever it takes, man, if you want to get involved in fitness, go to the gym and just start being friendly to people. You know what I mean? Somebody at the gym that's been doing it for a long time will reach out to you and be like, hey, if you tried this or did this different, it might help you. And then you got a person you can text and ask questions. And not only are you getting accountability, but you're also developing a friendship, like a relationship that's positive. And I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good, man. The other thing that I have been developing when we talk about our tribe and our inner circles, I have these group of guys, and this is kind of like my life inner circle. Like, we talk about all sorts of topics, relationships, ourselves, our personal goals, and we deal with all of it. I'm also in a finance inner circle. And so you can have more than one, but I wanted this year for me, I have very specific goals around our finances as a family unit. And so I wanted an accountability group that is hyper focused in that one area.
Right.
So you can be a part of more than one. It's hard to be a part of a lot of them because it does take time and focus, right? But it's okay to have one specialty and also have just some generic ones. These guys, I know I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm struggling in this area, and they're going to be there for me, right?
Yeah. No, it's
but
good.
I also want this piece of I need to deep dive into finances this year. And so I wanted to hyper focus on that as well.
Yeah.
So
No, that's good, man. So we got specific goals, the ability to measure them and track them, having an accountability partner or group that you're with. What are the other two of the five?
yeah, real quick, the other part of accountability is being accountable to yourself.
Okay.
And so that could be something simple. It could be a calendar on the wall with a checkbox every time you go on that walk that you want to do 3 times a week. But when you can measure it, you can also hold yourself accountable to it. And so it's not just relying on other people to be there, but it's also looking at that calendar going, oops, last week I only hit it twice.
Right.
You know, and having some way to see that. So be accountable to yourself. The fourth one is realistic. And I see this so often where people set lofty goals,
Right.
that they're just shoot for the moon goals. And I don't mind shooting for the moon as long as there's an expectation that you're going to get to the stratosphere, you know? And so there's two parts of that I think are really critical. When you're setting something realistic, you can do some research around what people have done. You know, if you are going to run a marathon and you've never run before in your life, what's a realistic amount of time to train your body so that your muscles have the endurance that you need them to, so that your lungs have the breath that it needs to know when should you take a salt tablet, when should you have, you know, some electrolytes, that kind of a thing. So you can do some research and structure around that. But then the important part is don't let that limit you. There was a time in human history, and it wasn't that long ago, when people said it's not humanly possible to run a 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. The physical attributes of the human body do not have the capacity to run a 4-minute mile. And everybody tried and they got close, and no one really did it because it was this thing. You can't get it done. And then someone did. And here's the interesting thing. When that person broke the 4-minute mile, then all of a sudden other people started doing it left and right. Boom, boom, boom. Mm-hmm. And so did they magically have some superpower all of a sudden, you know, that some Avenger moment where they could just go, oh, now I've got this thing. Now I can go break it. No, it was a limiting belief. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to research what's normal, then ask yourself, what's going to stretch me? And maybe what's going to stretch me isn't even getting to normal. Maybe what's going to stretch me is breaking that 4-minute mile.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's the danger of setting too lofty of a goal. And when you don't attain to it, you convince yourself that you can't do this. So let's just give up and quit, kind of a thing. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I like that, man.
Yep. When I was telling you about that meeting the other day where the gentleman was that said he doesn't set goals. The MC, the person that coordinated this get together, he was that person. And he said this in front of everybody. He said, I am the kind of person that I set a goal that is really unachievable. It's something I can't get done, but I get so excited about it. I get all, wrapped up in it and my mind starts going, and I set that goal, and it can be in all of these things, specific, measurable, accountable, realistic. It's like, not quite, bro. That's not realistic. And that's him saying it, right? It's him saying I can't get that done. But then I spoke to kind of the other side of the group, and the opposite side of that coin is people who set too little of a goal.
Right.
It's, if I want to walk a mile 3 times a week and I'm a marathon runner, why is that my goal?
Right.
So it has to be both. It has to be something that's realistic, that you can attain, you can achieve. It also needs to be something that stretches you.
Yeah.
And if we're not stretching, we're not growing. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. I like it.
The last one is time.
Okay.
It's got to be linked to time. So I can have the other 4 in this system, in this framework: specific, measurable, accountable, realistic. And if I don't put a date on it, it's just another wish list. It's just another thing, right? You've got to have it set up in a structure to give you success around the thing you're trying to do or trying to accomplish, and then set a deadline. And that deadline also needs to be a realistic deadline, right? If I want to lose 50 pounds, doing that in 30 days is not realistic.
Right.
Doing that in a year might be, depending on your health and fitness and some medical issues, right?
Yeah.
So set an attainable, achievable, realistic target on the time it's going to take you to do that. And then I told my brother the other day, not my blood brother, but my bro,
Right.
I told him the other day, we were talking about this very thing. And I said, man, when you look at that time and you say, yeah, that's probably going to take me a year to do, challenge yourself to do it in 6 months. Because maybe it's not achievable. Be realistic about that. But maybe, just maybe, your brain activates the creative side of your brain that says, you know what, if I just did this, this, and this, I'm going to take not a shortcut, but a faster way to get there. And if we're not asking those types of creative questions, then we're not stretching in that area either.
Yeah. Tony Robbins says that a lot, man. It's about asking the better question on how to get there. Yeah, I like that. These questions that I have for you, obviously, I didn't know what you were going to provide up to this point. So we may go back and touch on some of this stuff that you've already mentioned as you answer the question. So it might overlap a little bit, but I wanted to run through these real quick with you and ask you to speak on like how goals give us motivation. For example, like if you don't have goals, it almost seems like there's no motivation to do anything. But when you set the goal, it almost like it clicks something off inside of you that gives you an actual physical energy to actually go achieve those things, man. So what do you think about that? Like having goals and it turning into motivation?
Yeah, I think there's no aspect of nature or humankind that doesn't have to be growing in some area. Like there's always a transition from one season to another, from one area to another. Plants grow, right, until the time that they no longer. Humans grow and develop. Our brain is constantly learning. And so there's always something about humans that needs a little bit more. And if that's not there, a lot of times we were falling back into self-sabotage and into fear and into the blockers that we talked about in the last episode. But when you have something that is on the horizon, something that you can look forward to, it changes the chemistry of your body. Like it literally changes the hormones that are flowing through your body. It changes your brain's activity. It changes the questions that your brain is trying to figure out even, because how do I get there? And that, going back to what Tony Robbins talks about all the time, is ask better questions. Like just if you can get in the habit of asking better questions, our brains are a solution finding, heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
And if the questions that we're asking ourselves is, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I get that done? Why am I doing this again? And kind of beating yourself up over it. Your brain will find the answer. And it's usually because you're not worthy. It's because you don't have enough. It's because, what other people said over you is true, right? Those are the solutions. Our brain finds the answers to those types of questions. So one of the beautiful questions I love to try and think about myself is, and it's hard, right? In the moment of a struggle, this is really a really hard question. Not is why did this happen to me? What's going on? Like, why did this happen to me again? But what if the question is, how does this benefit me? Like, what if the question is, how can I learn from this? What if the question is, how can I grow through this? And that may take leaning on your faith and your belief system. It may take getting your butt off the couch and enacting discipline in the moment. It might take having a group of guys, a group of gals around you that hold you accountable. It might take the hand up. It might take the affirmations of starting your day and speaking over your life, this is who I'm choosing to be today.
Yeah.
Right. And then your brain switches, and then your brain starts to go, oh, it's not poor me, you know, and not that it's always self-pity. Like sometimes life sucks. Like we go through seasons where life sucks, and there's no, you know, name it, claim it affirmation that's going to change that. What's going to change is how we're looking at it.
Yes.
And when we change how we're looking at it, we can change what we're learning from it. And if we can change what we're learning from it, we will grow through it in the best capacity and our highest self that we possibly can.
Yeah, I like that, bro. That's good. In my notes here, man, I got how goals create success proof. Like we're looking for evidence that we're winning. Like for that, I need that. Somebody at work sent me I think it was a TikTok video, and you got to be really careful with that because there's a lot of garbage on TikTok, but he sent me this TikTok video, and it was about this motivational speaker was talking about how we're not even so much goal achievement motivated, and you were just touching on this, we're almost goal pursuit motivated. Like we get more rush and pleasure and fulfillment out of pursuing the goal than when we actually attain the goal. And that's why he was talking about how when people get to the goal, there's that instant high, you know, like I won, but very quickly the balloon deflates and I got to do something else. Like I got to pursue something else. But when we're pursuing goals and we hit them, it gives us proof that we're winning and succeeding in life. Speak on that.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn around that, if you don't mind.
Sure, please.
And I totally agree with that perspective. Like we have to be engaged in the activity of doing something. And as we're in goal setting and moving our life forward, like it is activity based, right? It's not just sitting there and being still. Although rest is an activity, in my opinion, so don't misconstrue the two things. But we absolutely, we are achievers, and that's when you go back to those little wins and having those little wins throughout the day. I love how you put that. It gives you proof that you're winning. It gives you proof that you can. And that's sometimes the hardest part when we're dealing with self-sabotage, we're dealing with some of those things, is I don't think I can pull that off. When you have these little wins along the way, along the path towards that process and towards that goal, you are giving yourself proof that you can. You're also giving yourself permission to do. And sometimes people just don't give themselves permission. Like, no, I'm not going to do it. No, give yourself permission to do that. Also give yourself the freedom to screw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody does this perfectly at all, ever, 100%. So if failure in your mind is not achieving the goal, then you may never move forward. You may never want to, right? But if success is the habit of lifestyle change, and it becomes part of your daily life, it becomes part of the mantra that you are telling yourself and speaking over yourself, it becomes the way your brain then thinks. But here's where I wanted to go with this. Motivation is not enough. Motivation will never be enough. If we rely on being motivated in the moment to actually take a step, it's never going to get done. That's where the discipline of doing comes into play. That's where the discipline of, I don't feel like it. It's raining outside. It's cold, but I told myself I'm going to go take a walk, and it's midnight and I've done this and I want to go to sleep. And I'm like, you know what? Dang it. I got distracted today and I didn't do it.
Right.
And that's falling out of integrity with ourselves, and in some cases with others. But relying on motivation alone is not enough. There has to be a system and a framework about what you're doing, even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah. No, you actually, that's great, bro. You actually answered the second question. I was going to ask you to talk on how we take goals from intention to action.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
got a lot of good intentions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But being
Right.
disciplined, I like that word discipline, man. That's the real key, bro. It's like the battle between the will and the flesh,
Yeah.
right? Because I was up at 3 o'clock this morning and we just had our um, life coaching chat on family just a few minutes ago. And we set some goals, you know what I mean? That are going to require me to go out and have some intentional time with my kids. You know what I mean? Because that's a goal
Yeah.
that I want to strive for. But because I've been up all day, the flesh is getting tired. The flesh wants to just kind of just sit around and not give time and effort and energy to it. But it's there's got to be a place where willpower, and none of us are Navy SEALs. You know what I mean?
Right.
We train these guys for months and months and months how to like live in frigid cold waters and eat bugs and stuff like that, so they can train themselves to be that way. We're out here in the real world trying to work, trying to be a father, trying to be a parent, trying to manage our money, trying to manage our health. And there's no real training on how to develop discipline. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of material out there, and it starts with mindset, read some books, like have an accountability group like you were talking about earlier of other people that are disciplined mindset, and I think over time, and this is another thing I noticed too, it just came to me right now. The goals that I'm striving for now and the goals that I've achieved just in the last, let's say 2 years, were just goals 2 years ago. Right now that I've achieved them, or that I'm on the process of achieving them, like it's almost like watching, what's the word? You ever seen those nature videos where they show the vines growing up a tree?
Oh yeah.
They have to do the fast forward motion, like the fast forward camera, so you can actually, otherwise it's like watching paint dry. And
Right.
I think we can get stuck like looking at the monotony of day in and day out, and this is taking a long time and I'm not really getting anywhere, and we're watching it slow motion, but it's happening, it's taking place, right? Like goal setting and goal achievement where I am at with that today is 10x where I was at with it even 5 years ago.
Yes.
But I'm looking at it in real time, which feels like slow motion time, because goals are, if they're real goals, they're hard work. And it takes time and it takes effort. And, then you finally get there and you think, man, I didn't really do anything, but like, you gotta be tempered in your reasoning, I think, and realize that it takes time and all that stuff, and not let the amount of time it took, all the slip ups that happened along the way, all that stuff give you evidence that you're not good at goal setting and goal achievement.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. When you talk about taking intention to action, a lot of times it's the first step. It's just taking one step, right? And I was on a coaching call the other day, and we were talking about different things. And my client talked about how this is like, they painted a beautiful picture of this is what I'm going toward. And the question I asked was, what's your first step? And a lot of times it's I want this thing, but I don't know how to get there. And so we just, we turn the power switch off, and instead of asking ourselves, how do I get there? We just say, I don't know what to do next. But there's always a little step you can take. In my coaching, we talk about ready, set, go. And it's a simple process. Like I'm going to tell it to you and be like, yeah, dude, that's so simple. And it is. But when you actually do it in the moment of something that's got its hands around your neck in fear, right? And you're just gripped and just not able to do something. One is to actually define what it is. Like ready is, what is this thing that, like, be real about what's gripping you. Be real about what is got its hands around you and won't let you go, whatever that handcuff is, be real about it. Like literally call it out and be real with yourself about it. Set is define two things. What is my life going to be like if I don't push through this? And what is my life going to look like if I do?
Yeah.
And you can write those down. You can meditate on them if you want to. You can whatever, call it out, speak it out.
Mhm.
But having the self-awareness to say, if I don't do this thing, this is what my life looks like. Am I okay with that? If I do this thing, this is what my life is going to look like. And I know I want that more than this other thing because I'm petrified right now. Right.
Mhm.
So ready, set, call it out, define it, be clear about it. Ask yourself, if I don't push through this, this is what my life looks like. If I do push through this, this is what my life looks like. And then go is 20 seconds of courage. And the reason why it's not 6 months of courage is because there's always a little step you can take.
Yeah.
So like you said, prove to yourself that you can, to
Mhm.
move one step away from that giant that's holding you back, to walk one step up that mountain. There's always one little baby step you can take. If it's, a family member that you're having an argument with and you need to call that family member and apologize to them, the 20 seconds of courage is picking up the phone, looking up their number and hitting send, hitting dial.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's a simple process. Ready, set, go. It's like, we know it, but
Yeah.
when you actually do it,
Mhm.
man, that 20 seconds can change your life.
I was struggling with that whole concept when you and I were doing the fitness thing last week. Because in my mind, I have all these excuses why I want it to look a certain way. And if I can't get it to look exactly the way I want it to look or build it the way I want it built, then it's not going to work, or why bother trying? And we've talked about my oil field schedule, and I've mentioned it on other episodes, and we're kind of on call, and we clean up spills and they can happen in the middle of the night. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you want to join a gym and start working out again and, get your health and fitness under control. But there's all these existential reasons why it could go wrong, why it's not going to work out, why you're going to pay this money for a gym membership and you're never going to get down there because of this, that, and the other. But defining it, as you said, if I don't do anything, my triglycerides aren't coming down. My bad cholesterol isn't going to go away. My good cholesterol isn't going to come up. And we all know where that leads, right?
Yeah.
But if I define this thing of what it's going to look like, if I just make the change, we haven't even made the commitment to make the change. We're just defining, right, what it's going to look like if I win. My confidence levels will be up. I'll be in shape. Like I'll maybe push that first heart attack back 10 years or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And my wife will start giving me a second look when I walk down the hall with my shirt off, kind of thing, And I was like, yeah, it's exactly what I did. What you just explained is exactly what I did. I'm like, no, I want this direction. Yeah. Now, what's the next step? The 20 seconds was, I just went online and started looking at gyms. It was something so trivial, right? And lo and behold, I find one and it's like $40 a month. And I was, whoa, like, that's amazing. And this guy kind of does it as a side business because he owns this warehouse and he sells like restaurant supplies, but he's got all this
interesting
space. Yeah. But he's got all this extra space on the second half of the warehouse, and he just turned it into a gym and he just charges $40 a month. And I'm like, that's enough money.
That's awesome.
I can pay that and afford to fail. Like I won't feel, I won't feel $40 if this doesn't work out, whatever, but maybe I can just get down there one day a week.
Yeah.
And at least I'm taking a step in that direction, and it's worked out really good, man. The schedule at work has been enough to where I can get down there every other day and either just do cardio or do cardio and pick a muscle group and work on that muscle group. And I'm already seeing results, and it's boosted my confidence.
That's awesome.
Not just because I'm getting healthier, but because I set a goal and I took the steps to achieve it. And I'm in that process of achieving that. And that boosts the confidence. And that confidence, I believe, isn't just for fitness. Once you build confidence, because you were doing fitness, you can now take that confidence and put it in family, put it in finance, put it in your career. You know what I mean?
So true, man.
Yeah, it's not isolated,
No, it changes the way your brain processes information. Like right. it literally changes the way your brain decides to decides to do something, because the creative side of our brain is massively creative, right? When you go back to, there was a point where we had no airplanes. There was a point where we had no submarines. There was a point where we had no running water, no electricity. There was a point where it was a stick and not much else, right? And activating that creative side of your brain then begins to expand on the what's possible. And when you start asking yourself the what's possible and having that perspective, then it's not just, I can't get past this. It's what if I do get past this? Like, what happens then? How is my life different, right? It's beautiful, man. I love that.
Yeah. I'm trimming some of these questions out because we've really touched on a bunch of them, but I wanted to ask, what would you tell somebody on how to stay positive during goal setting and the goal achievement process, whether they've boosted it 6 months or a year or 2 years, maybe they're in a real bad financial hole and it's going to be a couple years or whatever the case may be. They've set the goal. They've worked up the courage. They've started the process. They're on that trajectory of achieving that goal, but they're getting hit by life. They're struggling. They're striving towards it, but they're struggling and they're falling. They're having hiccups, these different things. What would you say to somebody that's going through that part of the journey? Because there's going to be parts of the journey where we're winning. Like we took those 5 steps and made it to the next level. And then the next month, like I was telling you earlier on our coaching call, how it was COVID, the truck broke down, I lost my wallet, found out I had a warrant in Arizona, like all this stuff piled on, almost like when you make the decision to radically change your life, there's a force, I don't want to get all like spiritual and call it the devil, because I don't think the devil really cares. Like if, like, I don't know, some things we just,
if you find your wallet. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? But like, it's almost like there's a force in life that says, oh, you've set goals, huh? You know what I mean? Now here's this, how are you going to deal with it? And a month goes by and they knock you down and you get off track and you didn't go to the gym that week because you were fighting all these little fires at work and in your marriage and with your kids and stuff. What would you say to the person that would help them stay positive on that journey of achieving those goals?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. First thing I would say is anticipate the roadblocks. Because so many anticipate it, because like you said, it's going to happen. And again, I was just talking to a gentleman the other day, and what he said to me was, every time I make a big shift and I'm going to really go after something happens. Like he had to have surgery, his job was calling him 24/7. He had to be, out doing that. They got sick with COVID, a couple of rounds of it. And it was like, every time I want to do something happens. And what I told him is, there's always going to be something that's coming against you. Mm-hmm. That's just part of life. There are these two opposing forces. One says, go get it. The other one says, no, you're not.
Right.
And if you don't anticipate that that's just real life, then you're going to get hit twice as hard when it happens.
I like that.
Right. So the first is just anticipate it. And I would go so far as to say, what in that moment when something happens, what is your blocker? Like, what do you think that's going to be? Is it going to be fear? Is it going to be anger, self-sabotage, laziness? Like, what is it going to be that's really going to make you stop doing what it is you want to do? And if you can anticipate it first, then maybe you can come up with a plan of action around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Just real quick, because I want to, you touched on something that struck a chord with me. Mention those blockers again, just real quick.
Yeah. So it's fear, anger, self-sabotage, laziness, guilt, envy, and focus, or lack of focus in this case.
Right.
Focus can be both positive and negative, right?
So when I shared that example with you of, let's say I'm committed to go to the gym or whatever, and then like COVID happens, or, just all the different things that happen in life that come against us. When you mentioned figure out what the blocker is, you went past the existential things and went straight to blockers. So it almost made me think that it's not the fact that someone got COVID. It's the lack of focus after they come out of COVID to stay on the goal. It's not the fact that I lost my wallet and now I've got this warrant in Arizona for a traffic ticket from 20 years ago. but it's the fear of, oh my God, my license is suspended. I'm not going to be able to work. This is a big fire. Like, I got to deal with this now. And it wasn't losing the wallet and all that stuff. It was the fear associated with losing the wallet, right?
Yes.
It's not the event that's happening in real time. It's the blocker that you're associating with the event. And for everybody, it's a different blocker, right? Because
That's right.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
really
And
like that.
it could be more than one, but there's usually a dominant one when it comes to when there's something that's stopping you from taking another step. There's usually a dominant blocker. And I find that these 7 they're pretty spot on. Like,
Yeah.
like in my own life, it's like, oh, dang it, that's definitely self-sabotage coming into play, or that's anger coming into play, or whatever it is. And so I find that those are very helpful. I actually have this list, accelerators and blockers, up on my fridge, just so I can see it. Just walking by it going, man, I'm struggling with something. What is it? What am I actually? I'm not struggling with the thing I think I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with my mindset around it.
Yes.
Right. And I also don't want to paint a picture that you're going to be able to have a plan around every little thing. Like, there are things you're not going to anticipate that are going to hit you upside the head that you're not going to see coming. And you know what? It's going to knock you out.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you do when you wake up?
I like it. Yeah, we've touched on a bunch, man. This has been another great episode, Joel. You always bring the goods when you come, bro.
It's always my pleasure being here, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yep. And we'll just close out with one last question, man. Like, obviously for you being a life coach, and I'm starting to get my life coaching business off the ground.
Yeah.
For goal setting and goal achievement, what benefit does having a life coach in your corner bring to the table?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question, because before I started this journey, I was talking with our jiu-jitsu instructor, and he's a health coach. And I said, what in the world is a health coach? Like, you have your doctor, you have your pharmacist, you have your, physical therapist, you have your chiropractor. Like, what is a health coach? And his answer, I thought, was great. It's somebody that helps you take the things that you know you have to do or are trying to do and help you implement it into your life.
Yeah.
So if I go to the doctor and my doctor says, you need to lower your cholesterol, you've got to lose some weight, you need to start eating healthy, he's the guy that I go to say, okay, this is my lifestyle. How do I, around the craziness of running the kids to different things and needing a snack here and there, like, how do I make that work in a healthy way and productive way for my life?
Yeah.
And that's what a life coach does. It's, in our case, we look at all 7 of these areas of life, and we help you to make that a consistent lifestyle so that you have clarity around where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there, and actually implementing those things into your life.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's what it is.
I love it, man. Tools, strategies, ideas, clarity, focus, accountability, all of that is brought to the table. And it's a good thing, because and my audience is guys that, it's for everybody. And, but my main goal with doing Apex Masculinity was to reach guys that grew up in toxic homes, went to prison, struggled with drugs, alcohol, pornography, different things like that. And they're at the bottom looking for answers, right? And having someone to basically teach you and show you the way is not an act of weakness. It's actually an act of strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an act of strength for me or anyone else to pick up the phone or reach out to somebody via email and say, look, man, I want to make changes, and I'm being honest with myself, and I don't know how to get there. And I need some help, and having someone, and the result is by far, anybody that's truly successful in life, many people say this, they've got somebody in their corner. You know what I mean? They've invested in themselves. And I want to see guys win. And Joel, thank you so much, man. Before we close out, just tell people how they can get a hold of you, man, if they're interested in finding out more with what you do and all that stuff.
Yeah, man. The easiest way is just to go to my website. It's www.wayfindersforlife.com. And I've got my contact info up there. You can schedule a discovery call. It's a free call. We just chat about where you are. You know, is life coaching, is the ULA system something that is applicable to your life today? Is that the thing you need to choose to move your life forward? And are we a good fit?
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of free guides on there too. You know, a little pop-up will come up and you can download it. It's a 20-page guide to just helping you be tangible about where you are and where you want to move forward, how you want to move forward. But yeah, man, wayfindersforlife.com is where you can reach me and learn about me. So
awesome. Thanks again, Joe. I appreciate you coming back on.
It's always a pleasure, man. Love it.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon, brother.
Sounds good.
All right.